I'm going to dream of the possibility one day of walking into a store and instead of being obsessed and turned on by the beauty of an object or by the promise of an object or by the price of an object or the status that would be conferred upon me if I chose or not conferred upon me, all those messy emotions, what would happen if I could be like Spock?
I am half Vulcanian. Vulcanians do not speculate. I speak from pure logic.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jed and Robert.
We actually put the Spock question to a neurologist, Dr. Antoine Bishara, who works at the University of Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
If I could say abracadabra and go all logic, would I be a happy chooser?
I would say no. Based on our work with neurological patients.
Then he told us about a patient he once had. He's changed the name of the patient. He would call him Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe him? What was he like?
Yeah.
Well, he's about 5 feet 10, 170 pounds, I would say. And that kind of decrease? It looks very normal, like a normal person.
He was an accountant.
That's Jonah Lehrer again.
For a large corporation.
A successful accountant.
Upper management.
And
active in his local church.
And he was married at the time?
Yes. A very conservative family, very religious.
House in the suburbs.
Good money savings.
Smart, successful man. Kind of the American dream.
And then, the tumor happened.
This was in 1982. Doctors discovered a small knot in the front of Elliot's head.
In a part of the brain called the orbital frontal cortex.
And where is that?
That's just behind the eyes.
Did doctors remove the tumor?
Yeah, he had the surgery, the tumor was removed.
And then the doctors sent him home.
Well, at first glance, it seems like a tremendous success. No language impairment, no movement disorders. He still scores 97th percentile on the intelligence test. He seems fine, like good old Elliot.
Does good old Elliot go back to the good old job?
He starts going back to the good old job, the good old family.
And that's when things got really weird.
At first, it's just subtle things, these very minor decisions.
That he suddenly couldn't make. Like, he'd be at the office, he'd want to sign a contract, and he'd have in front of him a blue pen and a black pen. And he would think, well, the type on this contract is black, so maybe I should use a blue pen.
Maybe a blue pen sticks out more. On the other hand, maybe it sticks out too much and will become too distracting.
Then again,
the black pen is lower on ink, so you want to save that for later.
And this would go on and on, says Jonah.
For half an hour.
And if it takes him a half an hour to decide which pen to choose, imagine Elliot in the cereal aisle in the grocery store.
I mean, the cereal aisle is particularly tough because there must be 200 varieties of cereal.
This is a sugary cereal. This is a not sugary cereal.
Standing there, I think about, what would I prefer tomorrow?
This is the one with extra protein.
I've got these other cereals at home. Are they also honey nut themed? Do I want something to break up the honey nut monotony? Is there one cereal on sale? That's a better deal.
With Elliot,
it'll take forever to decide.
According to Dr. Bishara, he would just keep on analyzing.
Well,
this one's 14 ounces.
Analyzing.
It's 15 ounces, but they're the same
Analyzing.
price. They also honey
Analyzing. Analyzing.
Is there one cereal on
Analyzing.
sale? All day long.
The question was, what exactly had happened to Elliot to make him that way? Like, what exactly did that tumor do? And the breakthrough came when Elliot went to see a neurologist named Antonio Damasio, and Damasio immediately noticed something. Even though Elliot was perfectly thoughtful, perfectly articulate,
always controlled, always relaxed,
when he spoke, he seemed kind of numb.
No sign of anger or rage or self-pity.
No feeling at all. So Damasio had an idea. He put Elliot in a chair, hooked him up to all these measuring devices, and then showed Elliot a series of really charged pictures.
A severed foot, a naked woman, a house on fire. Pictures that in normal people trigger an automatic emotional response. You can't help it, but your blood pressure increases, your pulse increases, your hands start to sweat.
But with Elliot,
these pictures triggered nothing.
And that's when it became clear what had happened to Elliot, what his tumor had really done, was cut him off from his emotional mind. He'd become, in effect,
some kind of like Spock-like Vulcan. The conventional theory would be that a person without emotions would be perfectly rational. That emotions somehow interfered with rationality, that they got in the way. And yet here was this guy who couldn't experience emotions, and he was pathologically indecisive.
So then the answer to my question, my first question, wouldn't we all be better off if we could be completely rational? We now have the answer. It's no. When you've got all these options to consider and they're more or less the same, the only way to wheedle your way to a choice is to stop thinking and go with a feeling.
Right.
And so the logic of yes, no, yes, no, yes, no leaves you nowhere, but the feelings of yes, no, that does lead you somewhere.
That's right.
Feeling, says Antoine Bechara, that's the key. Without feeling, you're stuck.
So what ended up happening to Elliot?
He ended up in a divorce, ended up losing his job, losing all his savings.
He got involved with a con artist. He had to move back in with his parents. Elliot was stuck. His life fell apart.
Which makes you kind of reevaluate the Dr. Spock advantage, so-called. Because if we really were keeping company with a flock of Spocks and we brought them to the grocery store,
There they'd be, 55 Spocks staring at the Cheerios, staring at the Honey Cup, staring at the Cheerios.
Not to mention that they're divorced and broke.
So, I mean, obviously we have some advantage over these Vulcans because we have these feelings that can push us to a solution.